I refuse to have my brother's pregnant girlfriend in my wedding photos. She's not family.
And neither is the child inside of it.
I got married last weekend. I'm still so pissed off at what my brother did. He took all of the attention off me and my husband. Normally, I don't feel the need to be the center of attention, but this was my freaking wedding day. I feel like it's all anyone was talking about during the wedding, and now it's like the main thing any of them even remember from the entire thing. By the way, this comes from Available T7528, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. It was a destination wedding within the US, so nothing crazy. We kept the guest list to our families, immediate and extended, as well as closest friends. My parents paid for our immediate family to arrive about 5 days ahead of time. So it was my parents, my sister, and I initially, and my brother arriving a few days later. We knew my brother was bringing a date. No big deal. He said he was just bringing a girl from school. He didn't even call her his girlfriend officially. My parents showed up at the airport to pick my brother up, and there he was, hand in hand with an obviously pregnant girl that none of us had ever met. My parents were obviously taken aback. My brother greeted them like everything was normal, according to my mom, and my parents didn't really know what to do or say. Then he just said, "Surprise!" My poor mom almost fainted and claims my dad yelled out, "What the F have you done?" He introduces us to this girl, but doesn't clarify if she's his girlfriend and doesn't give us much info at all, really. It was very weird. It was obvious that she was uncomfortable. She said she wasn't feeling well and needed to go lie down after the flight. So at dinner, it was just her family as she was resting. We were all awkwardly sitting around the table eating dinner, barely saying a word. My mom finally says, brother's name, "Is that your baby?" By then, we all assumed it was, but my mom needed confirmation. The lack of any real explanation or details from him up until then was just odd. He admitted it's technically not his baby, but he's in love with her and intends on being a father to the baby anyway. The actual father isn't involved and doesn't want to be, and if they get married, then he can adopt the baby, so he'll legally be the father. She's living with him, and none of us knew this either. He's been her main support person throughout the entire thing. She's 28 weeks, well, 29, since this was over a week ago. I think this was worse than what we had all assumed. So in love with her that he's going to take on the responsibility of her child and marry her. Yet we've never even heard of her. He said he's mentioned her quite a few times. Well, maybe he's mentioned her name in passing, not to me, maybe to my parents, but never said she was his girlfriend or pregnant. None of us understand. He's 21, about to graduate college, planning to enter law school next, and he's an attractive guy. Why would he do this? My parents, especially my mom, were stressing out about it all weekend long throughout my entire wedding weekend. It was like my wedding became an afterthought. All my parents could talk about was how to make my brother change his mind about this girl. Then, when the wedding photographer was taking family pictures, he wanted her in them. That was really the breaking point for me. She isn't family. None of us knew about the relationship, and we met her 2 days prior. She shouldn't be in our official family pictures from my wedding. It's like, forget the bride and groom, look at the random heavily pregnant woman hitching herself to my brother. No. I told him no. I refused to let her be in the photos. My mom made me allow her to be in one picture, but said, "We don't have to buy that one or put it on display anywhere." It just made my blood boil. Anyway, I don't think he should have brought her. There was no reason to bring her to my wedding, especially without warning. I mean, it's all my side of the family could talk about. And he was reticent to even correct them about it not being his baby. He said that's because it was awkward for her to have to explain the full scenario to everyone. So he just let people think what they wanted. Why didn't you explain it before you came to this wedding?
It was all just so that he could use the word reticent.
Exactly.
Within context.
Because he wouldn't at least say something. Everyone was gossiping and wondering about it the whole time. I'm posting this because I'm upset that several friends and even my own mom are telling me I'm just overreacting and I just need to accept it. When I told a group of my coworkers about it after the fact, they weren't at the wedding, they agreed with me and thought what my brother did was absolutely insane and rude. And consensus, OP is not the a-hole, and people are saying that the brother did that at OP's wedding to divert attention from or to him. And there are some comments And an update. Had the brother introduced her at home, his parents might have completely lost their crap on him. At OP's wedding, he thought his parents would be focused on the wedding and their response would be muted. I would be pissed too. It probably wasn't about wanting attention as much as it was about using your event. Your parents couldn't make too much of a stink about his situation because that would ruin your wedding. And it also enabled him to push for rapid acceptance, which is why he wanted her in the pictures. From his perspective, he's now past the most awkward part of telling everyone and getting her included, and nobody could argue too much because it would have disrupted things for you. And another person says, not the a-hole, weddings aren't a place to make announcements or give surprises, unless it's the bride and groom doing the announcing. I agree with some of the other commenters that think he was using your wedding as a shield so that no one could really blow up at him. I feel bad for the poor girl though. Your brother was such a coward that he had to drag her on a plane just to introduce her to his family. I imagine she felt the tension and won't entirely feel welcomed into the family now that you all know the baby isn't your brother's. I don't think I would have attended your wedding if I was the pregnant girl because no one in your family even knew about her. Your wedding was not a good place for introductions or getting to know each other, unless your bro never told the girl that none of you knew about her. I can't help but feel there's more to this on your brother's behalf. I mean, who does that? I agree about the wedding photos, but your mom was correct to have one photo with her in it in case she is a permanent family member. Don't let this overshadow your wedding day. Wedding days are important, but not near as important as the decades that follow. And OP responds, I'm not looking for attention. I'm looking to vent and see if most people would feel the same way if this happened to them. I'm frustrated that several friends are telling me it's not a big deal, as if they wouldn't be upset if this happened to them. It's not that I was mad about him bringing somebody I've never met before. I didn't expect him to bring a pregnant girlfriend. And now he basically plans to become a father and husband and then ask for her to be included in the wedding photos. Even if she wasn't pregnant, I think it'd be weird and rude to request for his girlfriend, who none of us knew, to be included. Just because I was fine with him bringing a date that we'd never met doesn't mean I was fine with the rest of it. He could have told us ahead of time at the very least. OP says, I am concerned about him ruining his life. It's almost all my parents could talk about all weekend. We all think he's insane and that this will be a gigantic mistake. In her defense, she seemed very uncomfortable the entire time, and I don't think she wanted to be there. I think my brother may have forced this on her as well. I don't think I would have been so upset about her presence if we had just known ahead of time. He had months to tell us what was going on. There's no reason he had to spring it on us and our entire family at our wedding. He's 21. This decision could affect the entire trajectory of his life. It's like he's cleaning up somebody else's mistake and he's going to suffer because of it. He's the youngest child. He definitely gets his way more than my sister and I ever could. Anything he does usually gets forgiven. This is a big thing to forgive, though. This is a big one for the parents.
Well, this is why you do a secret wedding, folks.
If he wasn't 21 and still in college, I might feel differently regarding his decision. I wouldn't feel differently about the way we found out, but I might be more supportive in general if circumstances were different. I don't think he did it to be malicious. I don't think he thought about what he was doing to me. He also hasn't apologized, though. If after being told something you did was rude and hurtful, at least own up to it. Yeah, he's basically a baby himself still and is not prepared to be somebody's dad. He said they were friends for 2 years, but it didn't turn romantic until after she was pregnant. Yeah, it was still a beautiful ceremony and everything else went exactly as I wanted. Somebody comments it must have been a prank. To not have admitted that by now, he'd truly have to hate me. That would almost be worse because it'd mean he intentionally planned to do this to me. I'm at least giving him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't fully realize what this would do to me as the bride. He's 21 and he's had a string of girlfriends going back to probably about 5th grade. He almost always has a girlfriend. The seriousness of some/most of these relationships is questionable, but that's to be expected for his age. If I were her, I would have absolutely refused to attend. My parents pay for where he lives and for where his girlfriend is now apparently living. I asked them if they were going to stop paying and they said, well, we can't make them homeless. They also paid for a huge chunk of his college tuition. They paid for a small fraction of my tuition and told me if I wanted to move out of the dorms, I would have to pay for that myself. I did move into my apartment with a boyfriend eventually, but my parents didn't help me out. My mom criticized me for living with my boyfriend without being married, and we couldn't even afford furniture. They say they were just in a better financial position by the time my brother went to college, and they admitted they should have helped me more and just didn't realize. They learned from their mistakes and decided to do things differently once my brother went off to school. But they did pay a lot for my wedding. My husband and I also contributed financially to the wedding. And responding to another comment, I didn't think I had any reason to request to meet his date prior to the wedding. He literally said he was bringing a girl from school. Like, That's a bridezilla, requiring a visual inspection of all wedding guests prior to the big day. Plus, it wasn't a huge guest list. I wouldn't call it an intimate guest list, but it was mostly my extended family and his extended family and a small group of very close friends. So about half of the people there were my family, who were all very surprised and curious about what was going on with my brother. Some people even asked me at the reception. He asked us not to tell anyone the truth about him not being the father. I respected that. Well, I told my friends, but I didn't tell anyone in our family. Even though I was annoyed, I still followed his wishes. He knows our parents well enough to know that's how they'd react. That's probably a big reason he didn't tell them about all of this sooner. I don't know how aware she was of the fact none of us knew anything about her. I wasn't going to make her stay back at the house. I'm not that rude, even if I was upset about it. I didn't even tell her directly that I didn't want her in the pictures, and I wouldn't have said that to her face. She didn't even seem like she wanted to be in the pictures. She seemed very uncomfortable. She was 28 weeks pregnant, and very obviously so. It wasn't a case of anyone blurting it out. Why OP didn't disinvite the girlfriend? I'm just not the type of person who would do that. I also didn't tell her directly that I didn't want her in the pictures. They don't want him to make this decision and derail his whole life about her brother. If they stop paying for where he and now she lives, it would make things considerably more difficult for him, and maybe he might wake up. As it is, he's already hitting that he may delay law school because of this. He's graduating in a few months. He was planning to go to law school immediately following, but now he's hinting that he'll delay that since he obviously will need to have a full-time job to support a baby. Oh, and she took a leave of absence from school due to her pregnancy, so he'll need to support her while she goes back. He hasn't outright said he's going to delay his plans, but he's dropped several hints. He can't even fully support himself now. My parents pay for much of his life. So if they continue to do that, they'll be paying for this girl and her baby too. It's not fair to do that to our parents. The thing is, it's almost all my mom could talk about for this entire weekend. So now she's telling me to just try and get over it. Not my brother's decision. She's still in knots over that, but the way he announced it. Part of the reason I'm so upset is that at every turn, my mom was fretting and crying about it to somebody. There were 86 guests. Both of my siblings were invited to bring a guest. My sister brought her girlfriend, who we already knew would be coming. I only felt it fair to allow my brother to bring a date if he wanted. He had a very casual girlfriend at the time. I told him that, and they were no longer together by the time official invites went out. I wasn't going to take back the invite for a guest, and I really wasn't bothered by the idea of him bringing a random girl just for a good time. I didn't think I'd have to check first. Is she visibly pregnant? Are you planning on telling everybody you're getting married and having a baby at my wedding? Actually, he does have a relationship with all of us, but we don't all live in such close proximity that we're physically seeing each other for Sunday dinner. I live about 35 minutes away from my parents. My sister lives in another state. My brother attends college in another state. We have a family group chat. We video chat. We all have social media and follow each other there, but my brother has never been one to post a lot of personal things there. He didn't come home for Christmas this year, though, which was a hint. Even as adults, we've all come home for Christmas every year, slept in our parents' house on Christmas Eve, act like little kids again. We were all really bummed that he wasn't there. Of course, we talked to him throughout Christmas and we all sent him gifts, but now it makes a lot more sense. He was actually with her at her family for Christmas. Heck, Christmas would have been a better time to spring this on us than at my wedding. I saw him once back in the fall. He had come home for something. My mom was getting an award that's a pretty big deal in the industry, and he came home to surprise her for that. But he never said a word about what was going on. Seemed like everything was completely normal. He was just focusing on school and just same old, same old. She's the girlfriend, also 21, and looks even younger. Very pretty girl, also very vulnerable looking, to the point where I would never have been able to say anything rude to her face. I can see why he fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, but he's sinking with his heart and with what's between his legs and nothing in his actual head. Would it be totally inappropriate for me to give him a shirt that says "In my white knight era"? And there is an update 4 months later, but what do you think?
I think this is like, it's starting to turn into a place that I'm like, what are we really?
Yeah, what are we mad about?
Are we denigrating our brother for being like, I will take care of this fatherless child with my girlfriend that I love?
Because
because
the thing
that
is
last
that it's
thing
not. It's I kind of understand where Opie's coming from, because if I had a friend who was at that age, like very young, and said, "Oh, I just found out this girl that I was like, I don't know, maybe they were casually, we don't really know how their relationship started, but she's pregnant." He starts falling in love with her, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna become a father. I'm gonna take care of her child. That's not mine." I probably, as that person's like close, either family member or friend or something, would be like, "Have we thought this through?"
That is true.
Do you know what goes on with like children? Do you know how much you're going to have to, pay? How much time you're going to have to put into that child?
Sure. But like, this still feels like the root of it is it's like, well, if I had a child, my parents wouldn't help me like that.
This is also why OP needs to talk to her parents. I think I was riding high on wedding hormones and center of the universe vibes at the time, but I've slowly come down to earth in the many weeks since I've last posted. I let my worry about the gossip about my brother and his girlfriend get in the way of me enjoying my day. And there's no way to go back and change it. I also realized that I should have just agreed to do one photo with his girlfriend included. One photo wouldn't have been important, and it didn't have to be considered the official photo of me and my family that I put in my wedding album or hung on the wall. Instead, I chose to be a witch to somebody I was meeting for the first time and who already felt very uncomfortable. For many weeks after my first post, I was sure I was not the a-hole. My high has deflated, and I've talked to my brother about it. We both came to the conclusion that in our family, we haven't really learned how to have difficult conversations about things that we knew might make somebody else uncomfortable. That's why I couldn't calmly voice my feelings to my brother on my wedding day and instead acted like a spoiled child. It's also why instead of having normal conversations with our parents to let them know that he was dating somebody who was pregnant by somebody else, and that he was going to be raising this baby as his own, he panicked and decided to just announce it without actually having to voice it to them at all. And my wedding just so happened to be the first occasion he had to do so. I don't think he meant to hurt me. Several people have asked me about an update on my brother and his girlfriend. Well, she's his wife now. They got married. They're still together, living together. We've gotten to know her a little better, and she's not as bad as we all wanted to make her out to be. I'm sure she's not. I'm sure she's lovely.
No,
That's not the point.
Again, it's less about
how lovely she is or how great the baby's going to be. It's like, he's a baby.
Right. If he doesn't have income, he can't raise a child.
I think she genuinely loves my brother and my brother loves her. She just so happened to be pregnant when they met, and they both acknowledge it's a bit unusual. My brother is the type who brings all the stray animals home, so I think we all sort of worry that he just felt bad for her and wanted to help her and protect her. But I think it's more than that. I went to her baby shower. She seems perfectly normal and nice and really crazy about my brother. The baby was finally born at 41 weeks, and of course my brother was there. The baby is several weeks old now. Half the time I forget that the baby isn't actually my brother's baby and isn't actually related to us by blood. After my wedding, my parents started to get more concerned about the whole situation with my brother. My mom became the most judgmental one. My brother talked to our dad and eventually got him to realize that my brother is an adult and he's gonna do what he wants to do. Eventually, my dad was like, "You're right, and I'd rather just support you here." My mom couldn't get on board. She wouldn't let herself even give his girlfriend, now wife, a chance. She's convinced herself that my brother was just being manipulated and taken advantage of by this evil woman. She told everyone that too. But I have to tell you that you can listen to full episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search up OK Storytime. So things were sort of tense because I felt somewhat in the middle at this point. But now my mom has been the only person to babysit since the birth. Good job. It's like she saw the baby and forgot about everything, and she's all buddy-buddy with his wife now. Okay. So before the baby was born, that's when the mom was like, "Nah, this evil woman took my son away." And then she saw the baby and she was like, "Oh,
she says, ooh,
grandbaby.
New son, yay."
I'm shocked that this woman has decided not to completely cut my mom out of the baby's life altogether, but perhaps she's a bigger person than all of us. And OP says, my brother has a big heart and can't resist helping someone who he determines is in need. We worried about whether he was genuinely with her because he was in love with her, or if he was with her because he felt bad about her situation and had convinced himself he was in love with her. This is how we sort of looked at the situation previously. Not currently. And I wasn't comparing her to an animal, but honestly, animals are better than humans anyway. I didn't have to come back here and admit to anything. Nobody is forcing me to admit it. I've received several messages asking me for an update and finally decided to post one admitting the truth as I see it now. I'm not comparing her to a stray animal. I was only trying to explain that my brother likes to rescue things and the entire situation was just odd to all of us at the time. OP was just using a little allegory. That's all. Just a literary term.
English major.
Those are thoughts I previously had, and I admitted I was previously the a-hole. I don't really remember what I responded to most people, and honestly haven't gotten back to reread it because it's a bit too embarrassing now. Editor's note, that's what I'm here for. It wasn't the fact that she was pregnant. It was the fact that until the wedding, nobody in our family even knew she existed, let alone met her. She was also pregnant with somebody else's baby. But like I've said, I admitted I was the a-hole. And that is the end of the story.
Wowee zowie.
It feels like OP did a lot of inner, work. And it seems like her relationship with her brother is pretty strong right now.
I think that's really all you could do given the context that we had, because it's like all the events had already happened. Now all you can do is like process it and
how do I
move
feel
through
about
it
what
in a
I
healthy
did?
way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't think you were really the a-hole in that first half, but it seems that you had a lot of anger and stuff that you didn't like about yourself, and so it's good that you processed that.
My father's partner lied to my children. I forced her to take it back.
Take it back! You can't say that!
Said no takesies, backsies. I'll preface this by saying I don't have the best relationship with my father, and his partner, Blair, is a big part of the reason why. While I don't hate her, she's extremely obnoxious and childish. She's also horrible with boundaries. It feels like anytime someone tells her no, she hears maybe. She's been like this for as long as I've known her, but it's become harder to deal with since I had children, so I try to keep some distance. Now, this comes from user NoOrlando25, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. Anyway, Blair and my father are planning on going to Orlando in July. About a month ago, she asked whether me, my husband, and our kids, 7 male and 3 female, wanted to join them. I thanked her for inviting us, but said no, because we're planning on going next January, and there's a pretty big chance I'll have to work in July. Also, and I didn't say this to her, we've been to Orlando with her before, and my husband had stated he'd rather eat glass than do it again. A week later, Blair told me they were getting their tickets and asked me whether I was sure I wouldn't join them. I said I was. Days after that, my sister called me. Blair had told her I was thinking about going while inviting her and her boyfriend. I once again told Blair we wouldn't be going. Finally, Blair asked me if I'd be okay with her and my father taking my kids to Orlando. I said no, because we're not even in the same hemisphere as the United States, and I wouldn't let my young children travel to a different country without me or my husband. Last week, my sister babysat my kids while my husband and I went out. While we were gone, Blair visited to drop off a gift she and my father had bought for my husband. She also took the opportunity to tell my children we were all going to Orlando in July. My daughter didn't care about it much at first. I don't think she really registered it, but my son got very excited right away. He kept talking about how much he wanted to go to Disney and asking about the trip, and after watching her big brother like that, my daughter jumped on the bandwagon with him. It was both heartbreaking and infuriating to watch them like that. I called Blair and said she had 2 options. Either she told my kids she'd lied and they weren't going to Orlando, or I did. I added that if she told them, she'd have the opportunity to apologize and explain herself, but if I did, I would not be doing that for her. Blair chose to call my children herself. I kept the phone on speaker, thank God, to make sure she was apologizing, explaining everything, and making it clear we would not go to Orlando in July. Both of my children, especially my son, were upset, but my husband and I had a talk with them and managed to cheer them up. My father texted me yesterday. He said that he didn't appreciate the way I dealt with this. Blair is still upset and thinks my kids are mad at her now. My father wants me to apologize to Blair, or at least try to get my kids to forgive her. But I don't see why I should. She was the one who lied to my children, and I'm not responsible for Blair's feelings. We're still on this back and forth, and I can tell neither of us is particularly proud about this. Am I the a-hole?
No.
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 It's not your fault that your kid, it's not like you went to your kids and said, be mad at Blair.
Right.
She lied to them and then told them the truth, and then they were rightfully mad.
Yeah,
And also, even if you went to your kids and were like, don't be mad at Blair, the kids are going to be like, wow, you're right, Mom.
Wow. I will do exactly as I am told because I am a kid, and
Dude,
that is what I do.
There are things that my family members did years ago, and I'm like,
dude, this is the kind of thing that, and that's why I was so
child.
Blair needs to be the one to say this, because this is the kind of thing that people will hold grudges on for ever.
They're going to remember that.
And
you think, oh, they're just kids? No. I remember someone saying a comment at Easter from when I was 9 years old. I will not forget that.
Never forget that. Not the a-hole. Well, she did lie to your kids after repeatedly being told you were not going to go. Comment, I would seriously consider a no contact period until Blair learns that lying has consequences. OP replies, I've considered going low contact with Blair for a while. Not due to the lying, this was the first time she lied to my kids, but because dealing with her genuinely feels like dealing with a child. Comment, not the a-hole. She is the living example of, I intentionally screwed up and I'm upset and hurt because I don't want to take responsibility for my own action. I just want to blame everyone else. OP responds, as much as I generally have no issue with my father's relationship with Blair, a big problem I do have with it is that I feel like I'm the only person who says no to her. Whenever my father does say no, which already doesn't happen often, she ignores him. She's used to doing what she wants without anyone stopping her. Most of that time, I don't care. It doesn't really affect me that much. I do not tolerate this when it comes to matters related to my children, and I've made that very clear in the past. I think that's why I didn't expect her to lie to them. And we have an update from 8 days in the future. I want to start off by saying my kids are both doing well. My daughter's birthday is coming up, which she's very excited about. My son is also doing better, but he's still a little upset. A few days after my first post, I was tucking him in when he asked me why Blair had been mean to them.
Aww.
There was no way to answer that question that felt fair to my children. She lied to them because she wanted to. She did what she did to manipulate us. I don't know whether she expected me and my husband to put our careers and sanities on hold to join them in July, or just let her take our children to effing Florida without their parents. Either way, it's not happening. We weren't sure how to deal with this. Going low contact felt too much like a maybe, which I already know means yes in Blair, but cutting ties felt like too much. In the end, we decided on a timeout period. She won't have any type of contact with the kids until the holidays. We'll extend that period if necessary. I told both her and my father about this over the weekend. She cried, and my father and I fought again. There wasn't really anything remarkable about what was said at first. It just felt the same as other fights we've had in the past, so I didn't register much. But he then started comparing Blair to my children. One of the things he said was, when kids are excited about something, it's fine. But when Blair is, you have to rain on it? I don't understand why he's saying this, though.
Because he's a weirdo.
But who's raining on Blair's parade? Blair's just being like, I'm mad that people are upset that I lied to them.
Well, I think that he is now kind of saying, you should have just gone to Disney. That's all Blair wanted to do. She just wanted to go to Disney.
That's just crazy.
Which is still pretty crazy.
To be like,
OP can't afford that.
Well, think about it. You're hurting your
children.
Oh my God.
The children yearn for Disney.
That comparison is what really pissed me off. I told him Blair is not a child. If he wants to treat her like one, that's on them. But he can't expect me to parent a 40-something-year-old woman who can't understand the word no when it's said to her.
So he married a younger woman?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Well, how old is he?
Well, OP's got to at least be somewhere in the 30s.
I did have another conversation with my father the next day, and it was more peaceful. He apologized for most of what he said, but a lot of it sounded like damage control. I told him we needed some space. We're not cutting ties, but we'll probably have less contact for a while. And by the way, you never need to have less contact with us when you can listen to full episodes of stories just like this.
So true.
Whenever you want. On Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search OK Storytime.
Search it up.
All you need is an internet connection and a device.
And if you don't have that, go to a library.
In retrospect, I think I wrote the original post because I couldn't understand where Blair was coming from. Now I realize I don't have to. I've been tolerating Blair's behavior for years, but I can't allow my kids to be affected by it again. I think I explained my family mostly well in the comments last time, but feel free to ask me whatever you want to know. Thank you for your reassurance. And there's a top comment. Good job at putting up boundaries and enforcing them. OP replies, wouldn't be surprised if we ended up not seeing Blair until after our trip next year. And that is the end of that story.
I'm hoping you won't see her. I'm wishing you that.
Yeah.
Good juju.
I hope that you don't find that footage that stays lost.